So today, come chat with me. We're gonna hang out a little bit. I'm trying to do more videos where I just kind of chat with you and don't over plan them. If you like the planned videos, don't worry. I'm sure I'll have more like lists of ideas and that kind of thing, more organized videos. But sometimes it's just nice to chat about minimalism and those concepts to help motivate myself and also to connect with all of you on a more real level. I feel like I get a lot of interesting comments on videos where I just kind of chat and say what's on my mind. So hopefully this will get you thinking too. I want to talk about setbacks in minimalism and factors that can make it hard to keep on track, and basically reasons why sometimes we might have a setback, or how do we get back on track. I don't know, I've been thinking lately how maybe one of the biggest things that can cause setbacks for people in decluttering and moving more toward minimalism is a big change in life. Like some kind of new job or a career change or moving to a new place where you don't really know anybody, or in my case, I've been having some setbacks, I think, because I recently had a baby about 6 months ago. Basically, when I'm starting something new, maybe taking on some new kind of identity or a new task, or I'm facing something I just don't have experience in and I feel a little overwhelmed, that's when I'm putting so much emotional and mental energy into that new thing that some of those other areas of my life that I want to be putting energy into just go to the wayside. Like, I've talked about how my home has been a little bit more untidy since having this baby, which I think is totally normal. Luckily, I do think, and I stand by this, that the decluttering I've done in the past has made it way more doable to keep my household under control during this new time. Like, that is the plus of minimalism. When you declutter, it makes it easier for those life transitions. But then also sometimes when you have those life transitions, you take a few steps back. And I think a lot of the reason for that is quite often during transitions in life, there's some insecurity. I did a video once on impostor syndrome, and one of the studies that I read about to prepare for that video was this study on doctors and impostor syndrome, and how doctors throughout their career will actually experience imposter syndrome, especially when they take on a new role or a new job, and then eventually they'll get used to that new role or job, and then it tends to fade away. But that it's not as if once you get over the hump of imposter syndrome early on in life, you'll never experience it again. And I think that's what happens anytime most of us take on a new role or a new job or task or challenge. It's like we start to feel out of our depths. We kind of feel like, what am I doing? I'm a fraud. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have all the answers. And you're even sometimes afraid to ask the dumb questions, or you ask the dumb questions, but you get different answers. And so it can be really overwhelming. For me recently, my daughter turned 6 months old, and we're starting to introduce solid foods. And that's a whole ordeal where there's so many different points of view on that, words of advice, different programs you can follow. You Google a question and you get totally different answers. You can start with purees, you can start with baby-led weaning, where the baby gradually takes to solid foods his or herself. And then there are also different lists on what you cannot feed a baby under 12 months, and etc., etc. It's like there's so much information and people are telling you different things. And sometimes I was still just stuck on the silly questions like, what food do I actually start with? What's the best starting point? Or what's the second or third food I should introduce to my baby? And just basic questions like that, but I would get so many different answers. I would just feel like, I don't know how to judge this. It just was like so much to research and to inform myself about before I was making those decisions. And I still don't know if I made the right decisions. Like, I recently subscribed to Solid Starts, which is this app/informational program about introducing solid foods to kids. And I think it's really informative, gives you information on how to help prepare the foods. But I kind of impulsively subscribed when they had like a 40% off deal. I don't know if I should have done that. Like, maybe that was a waste of money and the opposite of minimalism by paying for this service when I'm not even 100% sure whether it's going to be useful to me. And it's just that feeling of desperation of not knowing and wanting to have the answers that led me to spend that money. The thing about desperate purchases like that is that sometimes they're actually warranted. Like, sometimes the purchases you make, impulsively even, really help you. A perfect example of that is, I have it right beside me, so maybe I'll bring you over here for a second. It's this skip hop play center for my baby. And I really love it because I gotta turn it on, but it's got fun little music that plays and this nice place where she can just kind of sit or stand. But basically, it's just a fun play center where she gets to enjoy herself and explore. And I thought that would be fun for her. And it was. Like, she absolutely loves that thing. If I just need a moment to myself, I can set her down in the play center, and she's totally excited and ecstatic to be there. And I think it even helps her kind of learn how to reach for things and move things and use her hands. I'm so glad we got it. But again, it was out of desperation and getting a recommendation from some influencer who said, this is a great thing to get for your baby. So my basic point is that when we take on these new roles, we internally panic, and sometimes buying things or buying answers is how we cope. And the thing is, sometimes that's helpful. Like, say you're a med student and you pay for some studying program that helps you prepare for your big tests that you take at the end of medical school. Like, there might be situations where it's well spent because you're panicked and nervous and you need some extra support. Same with, I don't know how I feel about it yet, but maybe this Solid Starts program will be really helpful and informative for me. But ultimately, I do think it's something to be a little bit wary of and to be thoughtful about. How are my emotions and my insecurity about this new thing I'm embarking on affecting my behavioral choices around shopping and purchasing? And maybe there's not a clear answer. Like, I'm still trying to figure out how to approach this in an informed, thoughtful way. So if any of you have ideas, please let me know. I'd love to hear them. But I think for me, a first thing I'm trying to do is just to really question myself when I'm considering buying something. Is this something that will really change the quality of my life and or my baby's life? Is it something that's going to make life way easier, more meaningful, more comfortable? Or is it just this momentary impulsivity, and the chances that it actually makes a difference are quite small, and I need to kind of evaluate it out almost on a probability level? Like, what are the chances out of 100% that I will be super glad I bought this? And I only want to purchase things that are over about like 80 or 85% sure that I'm really going to be glad I bought it. And then also to be thoughtful about, if I get things, to be willing to return them if, say, I order them online, they come and they're just not what I pictured. And then I think another strategy to combat this tendency to purchase and to buy when we're insecure or feeling overwhelmed is to remind yourself that it is possible that you're dealing with imposter syndrome. It's possible you're just overwhelmed because of this transition or new thing you're taking on, and that it's gonna be okay. I know that's so basic, but I think sometimes recognizing that those negative feelings don't last forever and that there is always a transition period is such a helpful reminder just to kind of resolve some of those nerves and to make yourself feel better, that it's normal to actually question yourself a lot when you're taking on something new. And those thoughts of self-questioning probably will not last forever. I just bet that a year or 2 or 3 from now, when I have more experience as a parent, I'm just going to feel a little bit more confident and capable of being able to navigate the new stuff even as it comes up. I've already grown in confidence in the last 6.5 months or whatever it's been. I feel more able to take on new tasks. I don't get as overwhelmed. I'm less afraid to ask the silly or stupid questions. Like the other day, I was asking my parents and some other people, when can you take a child to like a classical music concert? When is that appropriate? Obviously, if it's a loud thing, you need to have ear coverings and all that for really little ones. But on a basis of what's appropriate to the situation, when can you bring a child to a concert? I was like, I don't know when that's normal. And that was a great example of a question where it's just like, how do you find that information out? I mean, you just kind of have to ask other people. You know, these are the types of things that feel overwhelming, and then we shop to reduce those fears. And if we just remind ourselves it's going to be okay in the long run, maybe that'll help quell those anxieties, and then you won't be as apt to shop. One other part of this, though, I want to address too, is I feel like with being a new mom, buying products is a very direct way I'm coping with the emotions, but sometimes it's less clearly direct. Like sometimes maybe you're in some sort of new job or something and you just notice you're clothing shopping more or buying more new makeup or whatever it is. And in those scenarios, the things you're buying might not even feel directly connected to the task of the thing. But that's because quite often it's emotions that are driving that shopping. Like we use shopping as a way of coping with anxiety, with overwhelm, with feeling insecure. It's a way to kind of emotionally build some kind of armor. And I think it's important to be aware of that too, because that's when we shop and keep shopping and do some of those more impulsive things that aren't helpful to us in the long run. So hopefully this video was helpful to you on some level. Even if you're not going through a big transition, pay attention to how your emotions or stressors in everyday life might be affecting your collecting habits and your path toward minimalism. Because I think it's just kind of this ongoing journey, you know? Anyway, thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.